In a quiet room, an old clock ticked loudly. My husband John was glued to the TV, ignoring me completely. I felt fed up with all the problems we'd had over the years. John broke the silence, sneering at me. I told him firmly, "I'm leaving." He mocked me, saying I couldn't survive without him. But his words only made me more determined. I couldn't take his neglect and his mom's meddling anymore. It was time to leave and take charge of my life. "I can handle it," I said confidently, standing up. Even though I was nervous about what was next, I felt strong. John's mom, who had been living with us for a while, walked in and saw my packed bags. "Leaving already?" she sneered, thinking I couldn't handle their family issues. I ignored her and grabbed my bags, heading for the door. John just sat there, saying, "You'll be back. You can't do this alone." As I stepped out of the house, a feeling of freedom washed over me. The evening air was refreshing, lifting my spirits. I didn't know where I was going, but for the first time in years, I felt a glimmer of hope. For 2 decades, I'd been playing the role of John's obedient wife, feeling more like a convenience than a partner. My son, Elias, was the only source of happiness, but even he couldn't fill the void in my heart. John's mom made things worse with her constant criticism and manipulation. Finding a small, peaceful apartment was a relief. It became my safe space where I could think without judgment. I ignored calls and messages from John and his mom, who begged and threatened me. I was determined to stand my ground and move forward. My coworkers at the library, where I'd worked for a long time, supported me. They had seen how I'd been struggling and were happy to see me finding my strength again. Surrounded by books and understanding friends, I started to feel like myself again and began to believe in a brighter future. While I was settling into my new life, Elias called me, sounding worried. "Mom, are you okay?" he asked. I reassured him, feeling calm for the first time in years. "Yes, Elias, I'm doing better than ever." But then he told me about the problems at home. My decision to leave hadn't gone down well. John had turned to drinking, and his mom wouldn't stop blaming me for leaving. I pushed away the guilt, reminding myself that they needed to respect my decisions. Elias hesitated but then expressed his support for me prioritizing my happiness. Ending the call, I realized this was just the beginning of proving myself to John and his mother, who had underestimated me for too long. It was time they saw I wasn't the obedient woman they thought I was. My journey to self-discovery and independence had only just begun. In my quiet new home, I reflected on the 28 years with John. What started as a promising relationship had soured over time. John's charm and our shared dreams once seemed perfect, but he became more focused on himself, neglecting our family. Elias's birth didn't bring us closer, it highlighted our growing distance. John thought providing money was enough, leaving me to handle the emotional support. His mother, Ariana, was always there, criticizing my parenting. She'd say I was spoiling Elias, insisting John never needed that kind of care. Despite her comments, I focused on raising Elias well. He grew into a thoughtful and independent man, a bright spot in our tense home. Things reached a breaking point when Ariana moved in without asking, claiming she was lonely. Her presence was suffocating. She criticized everything from my cooking to my clothes, hinting that John could have chosen a better partner. This new phase of my life was all about breaking free from years of control and finding myself again, a journey I was just beginning. Ariana's constant criticisms were hard to ignore, but what really shook me was discovering John's deception. I stumbled upon bank statements one day that revealed large amounts of money being spent from our joint account. It turned out this money was being wasted on Ariana's gambling addiction and John's secret indulgences. Whenever I tried to confront them about it, it led to heated arguments, with John always taking his mother's side. "She's my mom, Stella. She needs this," he'd insist, dismissing my concerns. The final straw came when I overheard them plotting to take full control of our finances, pushing me aside and leaving me powerless in my own home. That's when I realized I couldn't keep living under their control. The day I decided to leave, I promised myself I'd make them understand the pain they caused. My plan was simple but powerful, to challenge their egos and their control. I started by legally separating our finances, which shocked John. "What are you doing?" he demanded on the phone. "I'm protecting myself, something I should have done a long time ago," I replied calmly but firmly. Ariana's reaction was even more dramatic. "You ungrateful brat. After everything we've done for you," she screamed when she found out. But I didn't let it faze me. The time of me being submissive was over. Now I was setting my own rules, beginning their reckoning. After I took control of my finances, things got chaotic. John and Ariana showed their true colors through their anger. Their attempts to intimidate me with angry phone calls didn't work. "You think you're smart, Stella," John sneered over the phone. "You're nothing without me. You'll come crawling back." "Not a chance, John. I won't let you manipulate me anymore," I shot back, standing my ground. Ariana's threats were even harsher. "You'll regret this, Stella. You've ruined our family." "There was no family to ruin, Ariana. It was all fake," I countered. Despite their threats, I felt free. The fear that used to control me was gone, replaced by a determination for justice. It was time for them to face the consequences. I started by reaching out to old friends and telling them about the lies and manipulation John and Ariana had put me through. My honest revelation spread quickly, tarnishing their once spotless reputations. John, who always cared about his social standing, was embarrassed. "How could you do this to me?" he asked me, shocked. "You did it to yourself," I replied calmly. "I'm just telling the truth." Ariana faced the community's disapproval too. "You've made us outcasts," she accused, seeing it as a fight. But I wasn't afraid of her anymore. "No, Ariana, this isn't a fight. It's about being responsible for your actions," I told her. Seeing their social circles fall apart showed how powerful the truth can be. John's supporters distanced themselves, wary of his damaged reputation, while Ariana lost influence as her gambling problem and manipulative tactics were exposed. But I didn't stop at just exposing them socially. I knew their weak spot was their finances. With the help of a good lawyer, I fought for my fair share of our joint assets. Ariana's debts from gambling and John's mishandling of money were brought to light. The legal battles were tough, but I stayed strong. Their lies were no match for the truth, and I won a significant victory in court. When the judge ruled in my favor, I could see the defeat in John and Ariana's faces. This win meant more than just money. It showed that I was morally right. "You've destroyed everything, Stella," John said, sounding defeated. "No, John, you destroyed our family long ago. I'm just picking up the pieces," I replied, leaving the courtroom feeling free for the first time in years. I was filled with hope for a future without the weight of my past. After the court ruling, I started rebuilding my life with the assets that were rightfully mine. Stepping away from John and Ariana's influence, they couldn't believe the extent of their downfall. This was the start of a new chapter for me, one of independence and self-discovery, ready to embrace whatever came my way. The crumbling of John and Ariana's facades was just the beginning of my journey to rediscover myself and pursue real happiness and freedom. One evening, John called in a fit of desperation. "You can't just change our lives like this, Stella," he pleaded over the phone. "I'm just taking back what's rightfully mine," I replied firmly. "Maybe you should have thought about the consequences before betraying my trust." Ariana, however, took a sneakier approach. She tried to turn family members against me, painting herself as the victim. "You're tearing our family apart, Stella," she accused me when we bumped into each other at the grocery store. "This family was broken long before I left," I replied, refusing to show any sign of distress. I embraced my new freedom, enjoying the ability to control my own life. I cut off their access to me by changing my phone number and found comfort in volunteering at a local shelter, helping others who have faced similar struggles. But my fight for justice wasn't over yet. I found out Ariana planned to challenge the court's decision, hoping to get money for her gambling habit. "You won't win, Stella. I'll make sure you pay," she threatened in a message sent through a relative. In defiance, I strengthened my legal defenses, prepared to counter any challenge she brought forward. The person who once avoided conflict had become a determined advocate for her own rights. Meanwhile, John was crumbling under the pressure. His once spotless reputation was now tarnished, affecting his career. "You've destroyed everything, Stella," he admitted during a moment of reflection. "You brought this on yourself, John." "I just exposed the truth," I replied. As time passed, I watched as their seemingly stable lives fell apart. Ariana's attempt to overturn the court's decision failed, leaving her in financial and social ruin. John's professional life continued to decline, his reputation irreparably damaged. However, I didn't feel any joy in watching their downfall. Though it was an important part of reclaiming myself, it didn't bring me satisfaction. My journey was about healing and finding myself, far beyond their punishment. Regaining my independence and self-respect was a big step, but the wounds from neglect and emotional abuse were still healing. As I rebuilt my life, my main goal was to find inner peace and happiness. My journey was transformative, leading me out of the darkness of my past. I became stronger and more resilient. My story wasn't about revenge, but about freedom, a celebration of the human spirit's ability to overcome challenges. Months had gone by since the court ruled in my favor, but the effects lingered. John and Ariana had drifted from their social circles, shadows of their former selves. Then Elias visited unexpectedly with troubling news. Dad lost his job and his drinking has gotten worse. Grandma lost everything to gambling. They're selling the house, he said, the weight of his words palpable. My heart ached for Elias. Despite the distance, family ties tugged at my emotions. Did we do the right thing? Elias wondered quietly. I reassured him, though with a heavy heart, that we stood up for what was right. They made their choices. I didn't find satisfaction in John and Ariana's downfall. Instead, it reminded me of the importance of living with integrity and respecting others. In the following weeks, rumors spread about the sale of their house, signaling the end of their decline. John struggled to find work because of his damaged reputation, and Ariana was isolated as her addiction became known. One evening, I ran into John during a walk. He looked like a different person, defeated. "There's nothing to say," he finally said, defeated. This brief encounter was powerful. It showed how much our lives had changed because of the choices we made. It was here that I found true happiness, peace, and a sense of